Welcome to Dungeons and Dax and Bennett Chew. This is my friend Bennett here. He is an actor, performer, and opera singer. So excited to talk to him today. And my name's Dax Levine, your host. I'm a professional dungeon master and I guess part-time podcaster as of last week. So here we are. Bennett, how are you today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Bennett and I have actually been hanging out for the last 15 minutes doing vocal warm-ups. He's an opera singer, so he knows his stuff.
Oh yeah.
We're having some fun. We're gonna take it real slow for this episode. Just nice, smooth talking.
Baritone and baritone world, baby.
So tell us about yourself, Bennett. Who are you?
Why, yes. Well, you did such a splendid job doing it for me at the beginning there. But yes, my name is Bennett Chew. I am an actor, performer, and opera singer. Got my bachelor's in music from the University of Utah with emphasis in vocal performance just last year. But as you can tell, I am also a big nerd, and I love Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop RPGs alike, video games, movies, books, all of the above, besides my emphatic love for opera.
So that was a big list of nerd credentials you just listed. What was the first thing that brought you into the nerd world? What was the first love?
Oh man, let's see. I had to look it up. Oh my gosh, there was this. There was these books. If you remember that, like Dragonology, or like Wizardology and all that stuff, like Barnes and Noble exclusives. But like they were like these books that had like different little hidden secrets that you could find in the book of like dragon scales and like different types of dragons. And that was when I was like 4, so I fell in love ever since. Yeah.
I have a 3-year-old and we are already getting him hooked on nerdy things.
Oh, yes.
He knows all the types of dragons and the type of breath weapons they have. He knows all his dinosaurs. And
it's perfect. I was a dinosaur kid too, so that hits close to home.
Yeah, so you started as a nerdy kid, but now you've grown into this manly man.
Yes, a manly nerdy man.
So where did you said in your bio that you sent me that D&D started for you during lunch at middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And you forgot about it until your senior year. So that means you wanted to be cool in high school. So you did D&D, at least not openly, especially not at the lunch table. But then senior year, you stopped caring and you're like, you know what? This is who I am. I am a nerd. I love D&D. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, yeah. I mean, actually, it's kind of funny that you pulled that because, you know, I kind of didn't really think about it until then. But yeah, no, like freshman year in high school, I didn't even want to do music. I was like, I'm not a choral kid. I'm just a run-of-the-mill teenager just doing cool stuff that cool teenagers do. Yeah. But yeah, no, exactly. I just it started at the very beginning of senior year, actually, when my brother reached out to me and was like, hey, I found like these really cool miniatures. Do you want to paint them? And I was like, yeah, because even though I kind of like gave up playing the game, I still am a super crafty person. I love to paint. I love to sculpt. I love to carve. And so having
you have a
like
very
these
cool
tiny
decoration
guys
on the wall behind you. Like,
why, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I just designed this with also the assistance of my wonderful girlfriend, Emily.
Shout out to Emily.
So, yeah, shout out to Emily. She has her own corner right there. That's all of her kind of little bits and trinkets that she's like given me over the years. So, yeah, but besides that, it's like, you know, Thember Shot from the D&D movie or like little rock facts rock from Over the Garden Wall. I actually went to the artisan market at the Nerdy Wolf Pools at the Provo Center Mall like every other weekend. And it's like, I didn't catch their name. I feel awful, but they do medieval inspired paintings made from gouaches, which is like the closest thing that you could get to like what the medieval paints were.
Okay.
And it's a like embroidered script of the word seriously, like SRSLY.
Firstly,
Yeah,
firstly,
seriously. But
as
yeah,
it's a very archaic, very ancient and powerful word.
of course, yeah, it has a lot of strength behind it. Truly, the first vicious mockery.
Seriously, boom, psychic
Seriously.
damage. So you were saying that you were really crafty and you got into painting miniatures, and that kind of reignited this interest in D&D.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, I have the little bits and pieces on my board. Actually, I just totally was spacing it for a future campaign. But basically, I bought two minis that looked exactly like this. Just like little Archer guys, and cutting them up into little segments to eventually pose it correctly to look like it's riding this Kieran.
Can you put that
So,
up to the camera?
oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see here.
Sorry, people
I'm
on
fumbling my hands.
Spotify.
All good.
Okay.
Basically, what is standing in front of you is a miniature of a Kieran, with chopped up pieces of a little miniature that looks kind of sad right now, but it'll look super cool and happy later. But yeah, so I still love to do it. And now he's got me in Warhammer, my brother.
Once
And
you go
so-
into Warhammer, then you're in deep.
Yeah, I'm in deep. I got my Grey Knight army. We're gonna do kill teams first and then work our way up to doing like full-fledged battles and wars, so because he already has Death Guard set up, which look fantastic. He's definitely the better artist out of the two brothers in the Jew family, So yeah, he's got me beat there, but I'm catching up. I'm
Catching
learning.
Well, let's talk about your experience with opera. I asked you
Yeah.
a question before the stream, like what sort of skills have you developed as an opera singer that carry over into your D&D games, other than, having a good singing voice? I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, no, I think with opera, it's kind of got this interesting Shakespearean quality to it because it's a lot about it is projection, right? And so you learn how to healthy sustain projecting for hours on end being on stage. And so then when you're at the table and you are the dungeon master narrating the entire story, I'm able to pace myself and have the proper like preparation in my body to be able to continue to narrate with hopefully not having a hoarse voice by the end of the night.
It's really a full body experience. A lot of people who aren't singers when they strain their throat, right? They
Right.
strain their throat, and I hear a lot of like new DMs also trying to make these crackly voices, and it's damaging, and you can't keep it going. It's all about having a full body experience. What are some quick tips for anybody who doesn't sing, who isn't an opera singer, who wants to have a more powerful and healthy voice?
Okay, let's see. First things first is breath. Breath is where everything begins, is our focus, it's our bodies, it's how we function, and it's how we vocalize, whether we're singing or talking. And so just making sure that you are breathing a little bit lower than you originally are inclined to do, because a lot of people breathe from their shoulders or from their chest, but it really is breathing while focusing on expanding your diaphragm, which is a giant muscle, that wraps around the bottom of your rib cage. And so with a healthy inhalation, such as that, it's a great way to start.
I'm all self-conscious
then-
about the way I'm slouching in my chair right now. I wanna show you that I'm a good student.
Right? This is suddenly, all of y'all, there's going to be a test at the end of this, by the way.
Hey, I'm taking that test too.
Right?
I am not a perfect dungeon master. I need to learn more things, learn more tricks. All right. So
Right.
what's another thing that we can do to bring our characters to life, bring our stories to life with our voices?
Absolutely. Well, of course, there's a little bit of voice acting, right? And I think like you're saying before, everyone has the misconception that everything happens right here in the throat, right? But it's all about resonance, really.
Mhm.
So to be able
Yes,
to
it is
have
about
your
resonance. I agree with you there.
yes,
Hmm.
quite. And so it's about knowing where in your body that sound resonates. So like there's different scales, such as like bright and dark. And so bright sound would be a little bit more nasally and brighter. And so
Yeah.
going out there, you know,
Yeah.
you can have like a weaker character, a feebleish character, or you can bring it down to be darker and warmer, something more noble, something more big, stronger, right?
Yeah, our
And
normal
so-
voices.
Of course, I talk like this 24/7.
Yes. I only bring
Um,
out this voice for very special occasions.
Exactly. This is the voice that comes out when I take off the mask, you know.
This is who I really, really am.
This is my truth, okay? Yeah, so I think the best qualities though is to be able to understand where your body resonates. At least in singing, there is different like modes. So there's like head voice versus chest voice, and that's because you will feel your body literally vibrating in those areas. So as we're talking, chest voice, but then as we get higher and higher, we'll start feeling it like either here or your temples or in your nose. And so having a better understanding of where your body resonates, what's healthy for your voice, not trying to do crazy leaps, lunges, and bounds, are great ways to be able to turn your voice into yet another instrument, another tool to be a great player or a great dungeon master.
I love that. I love that. What other skills do you learn from opera that aren't about the voice itself? But
I think it's just overall an appreciation for music because honestly, I'm very new to the opera scene. I
you got your
mostly
degree last year, right?
I did, yes. So and even before then, before I even started college, I've only been studying voice for like 2 years by that point. And I was just doing a little bit of art song. I never really focused on opera at all. But over the years and through academia, I've learned to appreciate and love this art form because there's so much like, oh, what's the right word that I'm looking for? There's so much intention behind every note and every melody, every voice, every instrument that someone writes in their music that is in opera. And so that level of detail and orchestration, quite literally, I guess, is so moving, it's beautiful. And for it all to be played live, with every single part being a human being, I feel like is even more special. So, yeah, I think just learning to appreciate music even more than I already have translated into like how I can make Dungeons and Dragons into a more cinematic experience.
Mhm.
So I'll try and have my NPCs have like their own motifs, their own songs that play. So my characters have that sense of familiarity whenever
Okay.
they like enter the scene. I might regret saying this, but I'm going to hold myself
everyone
accountable.
listening.
The plan is for this summer that I will be composing my own music, my own soundtrack for a future Dragonlance campaign with my group. Because it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to have the perfect soundtrack. But, I've always just randomly pulled things from SoundCloud or randomly pulled things from
Yeah,
Spotify.
that's
Like,
what
this
I
is
do.
close enough. Exactly. But
That's
in
what
my
I do.
brain,
It's
I'm
not
like,
so random anymore. I've got dozens of folders and subfolders organized by setting and by mood and by, if it's horror, if it's combat. So I do like the baby version of what you do, which is
right.
create something wholly original. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
You have stated it out loud on the internet, which means you are now accountable for it. 6 months from now, people are going to look to this episode and be like, whatever happened to that Bennett guy?
Yeah, the Dragonlance guy. He was supposed to make a whole soundtrack for my campaign.
Where's our music? We need our music.
Yeah, come on now.
Go get him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
It's out
that's
there,
the plan.
everybody. Comment
Exactly.
below if you want to, hold Bennett accountable.
Mhm.
Cool. I love that you you have music in your games. I do that as well as an amateur, as someone who was a theater kid who sang in show choir and sang in college choir, but did not make it my career, did not even make it my major. It's great from learning from somebody who is going the distance, who is really going all the way. And we need to talk more. We can't fit everything into 30 minutes, but
Right?
I would
Nuts.
love to swap playlists.
It's already
with
so
you.
quick.
Great.
Holy
I'd
moly.
love to swap playlists sometime.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
talk
do it.
about the collaboration that we have done together.
Yes.
Should I start? Should you start?
By all means, you're the DM, please.
So this all began a few months ago. We were hanging out. Well, our mutual friend Rachel Ann wanted to do a live stream D&D one shot.
Yes, love you, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel, who has already commented. Rachel Ann knew we were going to be talking about her today. That's why she's here. She wanted not to just dress up and be in costume as we did. Sorry, I'm looking at Rachel's comments and it's distracting.
I indeed, I have the stream mug. Evermore Park just so
Long story short,
graciously gave it to us.
We live streamed this one-shot game from Evermore Park, which is this immersive fantasy park in Pleasant Grove, Utah. And everyone was in costume. We had beautiful props, and I ran an adventure from the newest D&D source book. So it was a heist-themed game, but we made it a little spooky and fun and awesome. And that's how I met Bennett. He was, because we had this mutual friend, he came in as one of our cast members. And we talked beforehand a lot about your character's motivation and focusing not just on how much damage they could do, what their armor class was, but what drives them, what is their intention, what are they feeling in this moment. A lot of the phrases that you've done so far. So tell me about your experience preparing for this awesome live stream we did.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, for me, the acting and like the role play bit is like the cherry on top for this, right? It's what I love to do. It's why I'm there at the table. But the most amount of preparation that I had for this was actually the costume. Because I am not really a professional cosplayer by any means,
You're just
I spend
a
most of my time
good-looking
in
guy
music.
with a suit of armor.
Exactly,
that's
yeah. I just randomly spent the money. It was quarantine. We all had our weird moments there. Some people had a divorce, and I got my plate armor. Okay, so yeah, just. But yeah, no, it was just I wanted to make something that was comfortable, right, for the stream. And I was like, okay, well, then probably have to do something out of foam. And then I was so thankful that we had like a session 0 where we could talk about the character and the campaign setting, because then I had the idea in my brain, like, okay, we're in like kind of like this medieval meets Victorian kind of like fluid time.
Bloodborne
like,
was one of those images that we both
yes,
that resonated with both of us.
Yeah, love the imagery of Bloodborne. And so I was like, okay, so then how do I take a Dark Souls knight and put him into the world of Bloodborne? And so then I had to like design. Actually, well, hold on, I have the sketch right here.
This was not
the
planned.
first time that I like put it into pen, because I'm such a doodler. I love to doodle.
So
crafty, a little crafty guy. But this was the original design for Leander, my character.
That's pretty close to how it ended up.
Right? Thank goodness. But yeah, my girlfriend Emily and we spent, I think, around like 24 to 36 hours in total, just painting and priming, sanding, doing all that great stuff. And it reignited my love for cosplay. And now I'm like, okay, cool. Well, what's the next thing that I can make out of Warbler, right?
Were there any
yeah,
decisions you made when designing that costume that weren't based on, oh, what looks good or what materials do I have, but what story does this tell about the character?
Oh, absolutely. So, unfortunately, and like something that didn't make it into the final design was this kind of like insignia of an eye and wings, because we were kind of talking about making Leander's like patron, this kind of corrupt angel, right? It looks very deceptively like a celestial being of goodness and light, but in reality it's an eldritch beast.
Yeah.
And so
Which ended up being like the big bad of our one shot that you played
and
with.
everything to kill,
Kind of
yeah.
kind of what we were fighting at the end.
Right? Exactly. So in its design, I wanted to actually add like eyeballs over the armor to kind of look like the armor not only was like old because Leander kind of like stole each piece individually from different people he killed or slayed in his journey as a knight, but also like that there's something that was kind of twisting the armor as well that was otherworldly. So yeah, and obviously the giant sword on the back is very Dark Souls.
Oh, of
because
course. It was
yeah,
massive. It was comically huge.
yeah,
And it
of
was
course.
also wrapped in cloth. What was the reasoning for that?
I think it was well, from an honest perspective, time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to
you know that.
Oh yeah, of course. So that's the first thing. But it's also it was just I think it was just a cooler aspect to make it look more ancient because it's not necessarily the first weapon that Leander was going to be going for. He was going to be going for like the inner chamber blade that was like his little light rapier that he could like go in and stab people with. And then for the smites, you know, pull out and like lock the blade into the hilt or into is that right? The hilt? Yeah. I'm losing my mind.
You were holding the
sheath,
hilt and then you
the
locked it
sheath.
into the sheath. The sheath became this larger blade, which is
Exactly.
straight out of Bloodborne, which I love. That was my weapon of choice.
Yeah.
Ludwig's Holy Blade.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the games, like I mean, it's one of the swords that appear throughout all the games, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a recurring theme of at least one giant sword that they can have in each Dark Souls game.
Of course. And when I saw it, because it looked almost as if it was in a funeral shroud, not quite mummified, but had this funeral shroud quality to it, as if the blade itself was dirty and corroded, and you needed to prevent that corruption from seeping onto other things, and so you kept it wrapped. And a sword that is never drawn to me is a lot scarier, especially when it's a big sword. It's like I can kill you without even drawing my sword, without even using the full thing. What happens when it does come out of the sheath? That created this very ominous feel to it that I loved. So.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was super dope. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, we really created it together.
Yeah,
so
we did.
Thank you for helping me out.
That's the whole point of this podcast is collaborative storytelling, working together with our friends so that the stories we tell together are better than the ones that we would tell separately. So let's talk about some other experiences we had on that live stream, other fun moments playing with our friends.
Oh man. I mean, like, I think it was just great because the last time I actually went to high school with Halsey Bella, right?
Okay.
And yeah, so that was like our senior year when we were playing Dungeons and Dragons together, and that was also the last time that we played Dungeons and Dragons together. Like was that summer after we graduated. And so it's been years since we've ever touched the books, ever played the games. And so it was such a great moment to be able to play with her one more time. And in front of such a huge audience as well, which is crazy.
And she was fantastic.
She crushed it. Quite literally, because she was a barbarian.
She was the barbarian. She told me, she's like, I haven't played too much. How can we make this fun? And so I'm like, well, barbarians don't always feel anger. What other emotions can your barbarian go through? And I loved her catchphrase. We're like, I gotta speak my truth, and then she would smash things. And it was fun. It was a fun like look at how barbarians are played, inverting the usual tropes. Also, she was playing an elf, and elves are not typically, these barbarous, hulking monsters of meat and muscle, and it was really fun seeing that sort of inner conflict. But yeah, everyone at the table, we could spend 10 minutes or an hour on every person who was
Truly.
there, all their great costumes, the voices they used, and the great
Hmm.
decisions they made. Um, what was one of your favorite moments from that stream?
Ooh, let's see. Well, personally, for like Leander, it was his moment where it was right before he was gonna behead what was left of Elra that was possessed by the celestial monster.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
like,
guess we should give some more context to that, like how the story began.
oh man, yeah.
Should we go? Should we
Which
go
where,
there?
how far back do we want to
Yeah.
start?
So the adventure begins with the heroes being recruited to do this heist that another adventuring party had failed. They had failed to retrieve this book, and their quest was given to them by this disembodied head, a disembodied
Mhm.
head that your character Leander knew very well, and we had that head played by our friend Hyacinth.
Yeah,
So yeah, she acted out the head and you know talked about
wonderfully
the
so, by the way.
yeah, she was
Crushed it.
absolutely great. And so I'm glad that we were able to work that quest giver into your backstory.
Yeah. Do you guys want to
Um,
know a secret about the campaign, by the way? I just realized something. So, we thought it would be interesting because the way that I set up Leander was that he was an orphan that was on the streets, right? He was rugged. He was a thief. He was kind of whipped into shape
yeah,
by Elra to join the knighthood.
not your typical paladin.
Exactly. He's
It's
very
fun.
scruffy, which I love, you know? It's all about, I mean, like with Belle's character as well, right? So they try and make unconventional characters work. And so to make him like a dex-based, kind of thievish paladin was really cool. But also, Leander didn't have a last name when he met Elra. So Elra gave him the last name Wolfsbane because somewhere in their past he saved her from a wolf. And so that's why during her kind of monologue that as a beheaded as like a decapitated head that she was telling to our party members, she addressed me as Wolfsbane
Mhm.
instead of Leander because it was kind of like a sense of endearment from their childhood.
Oh, I love that.
Fun little thing. I was at it, you know.
Wolfsbane sounds so much cooler than Puppy Thumper. Yeah, very cool name.
Any day, yeah. I would take Wolfsbane over that any day.
Yep. Cool. So we were able to take this quest, this heist, and we were
Yes.
able to put emotional stakes in it because
Mhm.
Leander didn't care about the money. He didn't even care about getting the book. He wanted justice for what happened to Elra because she was, I mean, in pieces. What happened to
Yeah.
the rest of her? What did this?
Mhm.
And so we put that emotional layer into the game. You
Yes.
did such a good job picking up on those cues and letting it drive your decisions and your motivations as we snuck into the house and fought a bunch of creatures and eventually made it downstairs and found the rest of Elra's body being possessed by this eldritch angelic abomination deity
Mhm.
growing out of her neck. Um,
Mhm.
you had to fight her. You had to fight
Yeah.
her leftover body, and so that was a great climax. That final confrontation with you confronting someone who you cared about.
Yeah.
And Hyacinth was great because I had her come back on stage and start whispering in your ear as if it was Elra, even though you know she was possessed. And I would
Mhm.
say something in my spooky voice, and then she would say it in her Elra voice, and we would mimic everything each other was saying. And so it was almost as if you were hearing the entity speaking through her and her as well. What
Mhm.
was going through your mind when we started doing that to you?
Oh, dude, it was so wild. I mean, it was really, I mean, as Leander, it was really difficult to be able to focus on the situation, but it also worked so well because my roles weren't that great until the very end.
Mhm.
And so, you know, there was this struggle as Elra being possessed was overpowering Leander, literally killing him at some point, where he had to like try and survive through death saves.
Yes.
So, like, I think it worked out so well storytelling wise. Um, and is it okay if I talk about the final blow? Should we get into it a little bit?
I don't know.
You
We should just tell
know,
people to watch the stream. It's
you
there in
should
the
watch the
comments.
stream. Yeah,
There
it's
on the
on.
comments. We'll make sure we add it to, our other places we're streaming as well.
This is true. So if you want to see how it ends up, you have to watch the stream because it is actually a very, very cool, emotional, climactic moment for Leander that ended up happening, which was so wild.
Which was something I couldn't have done that by myself.
Yeah,
I'm so
that's
grateful
right.
we were able to. Yeah, it takes two. It takes the whole party, and we were able to read each other's cues and tell an awesome story. There's another thing I want to talk to you about. You mentioned that you had a friend who was very close to you, and you do your best to keep their memory alive. And I put in the description of this that we're talking about collaboration beyond the grave, but I don't want to make a joke about this. Like this is a serious, somber, sacred thing. So I'm gonna turn it over to you and tell us the story.
Yeah, well, I think just to start, I think something that is wonderful about tabletop RPGs and Dungeons and Dragons, and all the games that are alike, is that not only is it collaborative storytelling, but it can also be incredibly personal for the group of people that you're playing with. And so I've been playing with the same group of friends for about 7 years, I want to say. Let's see, I'm trying to think, exactly. Well, at least since senior year, it's been 2018. So, oh my gosh, 5 years now. 5 years. I've been playing with the same group for 5 years.
Shut up, you're not old. Quit acting like you're old.
I just am really slow with math, which is very surprising because I have to add so many modifiers. Anyways, so I've been playing with this group for a long time. We're all best friends from high school, and one of them was my best friend that I met my freshman year, named Gavin, and we did not run in the same circles whatsoever. He was a very shy, quiet, awkward computer guy, and so
he liked cool like you.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't as cool as me. I was incredibly awkward, but I just kind of threw myself into the fray. I was more of the music nerd, and he was the computer nerd. Yeah,
and music nerds are slightly cooler than computer nerds. I don't make the rules, but
yeah, it's in the compendium of nerdology, the rule of nerd. Yeah.
They made dragonology, wizardology, and then it came to nerdology.
and nerdology.
That was the final form.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the last one they put out in Barnes and Noble.
Your friend Gavin.
Yes, sorry. Yes, my friend Gavin. He would kind of keep to himself throughout our friendship, but we stayed close because we would always do stuff together. We'd play video games, watch anime, and then it turned into playing tabletop RPGs. It started with one called Shadows of the Demon Lord, which is very like Dark Souls, Dungeons and Dragons, which we loved because it was so dangerous and every move like really mattered. And so having that instant like tension on the board was so fun to play with. And then we kind of gradually made our way to like Dungeons and Dragons, and now we're playing D&D all the time. But in 2020, it was actually when our group was supposed to meet up for a session of D&D when we all got a group chat message that he wasn't feeling well. Only for me later on to find out that he passed away. And I unfortunately was there at the scene after police arrived at his home. And so it was very, very traumatic for me and for all of my friends that were in our group together. Um, and for a second there, I thought that we weren't going to play anymore. You know, it would just hurt too much to see an empty chair sitting at our game table. But we kept going, we kept playing. And it was not until like 2 years ago where my brother, who was also really close to Gavin, because he was kind of like both of our older brothers. You know, he just kind of inherited Gavin as well in our family. Um, he and our other great friend named Matt, they both collaborated and created this game of Dungeons and Dragons that was kind of like a one shot, kind of just a short campaign, but it was exploring Lucian's mind. And Lucian was the character that Gavin has been playing for years, who was like this young girl who was like a feisty knight. And so she would always like be like mean and back talk, but also deal like insane damage was her whole shtick, right? Um, and so we explore, though, Lucian's mind in this campaign, and we experience not only her backstory, but we also reopen Gavin's, like all of our memories with Gavin as we go through like the different tiers of this maze. Um, and when we make it to the like where presumably the BBEG, the final boss of this dungeon, is. Instead, we're presented with Lucian lying down on a cobblestone slate with a giant world tree looming in the background with sunbeams coming through and a magical sphere that kind of encompassed the whole area. And so, as each of us walked through this sphere of like this magic dome, we split into all of our different characters that we have played through the years and ourselves standing in the back. And one by one, we were all able to, in our kind of groups of characters and ourselves, walk up to Lucian and say one final thing. And as soon as we all said our last things and our wishes to have her wake up again, we saw this bubble collapse and then get sucked into Lucian as her soul became a giant crystal that shattered and scattered across the stars. And so no matter what campaign we're playing, we can find fragments of Lucian's soul throughout our games as we play.
That was you're making me feel feelings. Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was crying like a baby, right, the entire time. But it's a way that not only were we in an enthralling game narrative, but something that was incredibly personal and also a sense of closure to such an abrupt and upsetting passing. And so, to commemorate it, there was a stained glass mural actually before we walked into the dungeon of that exact scene, and I got a tattoo of that actually.
Let's put you full screen.
Yeah, and so yes, we have the sun to kind of like represent the sunbeams, Yggdrasil, Lucian, the cobblestone paths, and the roots of the world tree as well, lying on the bottom.
If you're listening to this on a podcast, highly recommend checking out the YouTube or the Twitch.
This is true. Yeah. If you want to catch my sweet tat.
If you want to see the tat. No, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I'm sure it's not easy to relive that, but also peaceful at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's the point of the tattoo, though, you know, is to tell the story. Because the story, I think, is the most beautiful part. that we were able to come together as friends to heal by playing Dungeons and Dragons, of all things. That was the most healing thing for our group of friends to try and combat such an insurmountable amount of grief surrounding like losing one of our friends. So, yeah, I think that's why above all now, because my love for D&D is always changing, right? But now it's just knowing how impactful these stories and the relationships that we have around the table can be.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that with us. I have
Yeah.
so many questions about opera and pool and other things for you, but I think like that is just a beautiful note to leave this broadcast on. We'll just have to bring you back another time, and we can talk
I'd
about
be
those
happy
other
to be
things.
back.
But this was so much fun. Thank you, all 5 of our fans who tuned into this. I think we're at 7 at one point.
Ooh.
Someday we'll have dozens and dozens of fans.
Right. Hundreds and thousands.
Dozens. There'll be Dax's dozens. That's what
Dax's dozens.
yeah, and then where can people find you?
Yes.
What you're up to.
Absolutely. Well, I am on Instagram and TikTok. Honestly, it should be any social platform underneath the Ben Chewy. I lucked out.
Chewy. There it is on the screen.
Yeah. Boom. I lucked out and was able to grab the one handle to rule them all. So you can find me. I mostly use Instagram and TikTok, though. Instagram mostly is like opera and photos, and TikTok, I post more like cosplay stuff, more like LARP things. So, yeah, whatever suits your fancy, you can follow either or both.
follow Bennett Chew and all the cool things that he does. See you for our next interview. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys.